And good morning, Hoosier Nation, and welcome to the first edition of Hoosier Morning After of the Darren DeVries outing, the Darren DeVries career at IU. Indiana goes on last night to defeat Alabama A&M 98-51. Boy, guys, it's fun again. It's fun again. Isn't this so exciting to get back to a team that just feels so entertaining, feels so much lighter, the ball moves, everyone has a good time. It's the hope is that back, guys. The hope and excitement is back. Obviously, don't want to jump to too many conclusions. This is a sub 300 Ken Palm team. So, but a great way to start the season, a great way to make the fan base feel excited again about basketball. IU goes on to win 98-51. The very first outing of the Darren DeVries era of IU basketball. Big lead in the first half, up by 36, putting up 58 points in that first half. It's just fun basketball to watch all night with this team. Just great shooting, unselfish play, and just stellar movement of the ball and players off the ball. Something that feels like Indiana basketball again. Just feels like the team has finally gotten the situation up to more of a modern game, more of a modern situation, playing five out a lot. Just feels so much fun. There's so much more things to look at and comment and talk about. My brain's overloaded on this episode, guys. It's so exciting. Second half, IU led, had a few kind of rough defensive possessions as it appeared that the team wanted to try to work on some things. These kind of preseason, I will say, games like this are where you can try things like that. When the game was very well in hand, up over 30 points, you could see where IU was trying to double the post. That's going to be kind of the tender spot of this IU team is the defensive end in the post. It's going to be tough for them to deal with some bigger length and some bigger centers that they're going to face in the Big Ten once we get into that. So it's clear that the coaching staff wanted to try some things and did some doubling in the post. It led to some kickouts and some wide open shots and guys that weren't guarding or there protecting the weak side. And so obviously some work still needs to be done with that, but just a good decision by the coaching staff to take the time to try some of those things. This is the perfect time to fail. You want to have the right time to fail, and this is a game time situation where this team was able to fail and figure things out for them. But just about as good of a first outing as you could ask with a brand new team. Sure, it was a heck of a lot better than we've seen from career introductions games than we've had in the last two coaches. Was a little nervous going into that as we've been a little bit cursed with those situations in previous coaching hires and their first games out. We won't go too much into that. Martha will be joining me soon. Martha dropping off kids, getting kids to school and everything. So Martha will be coming in hot here at some point on the show. But we'll just kind of keep going on, and it's just type in the comments any sort of questions or something you have, comments, thoughts on the game as we go along. We'll try to get to some questions maybe at the end of the show. But this was just so much fun again, guys. I can't stop saying the word fun. And looking across Twitter, that's all you saw too. Some great clips of this team. And this was an amazing team win. And I say that with all caps, the word team. This is such a great team. The most unselfish I think I have ever seen an IU team play. Just not only that, but like the cuts to the basket, the ball movement, the way the ball would move around was just beautiful. And then the two-man game. There's a lot of great little two-man games where they'll just kind of hand off back screens for each other and just feel out what the defense is giving them. And then suddenly the other guy will cut to the basket for a wide open shot just over the top. And that's open. That's there because this team is playing a more modern form with five out a lot of the time. So there's so much room in the paint for these guys to play, so much room for them to operate and everything. And just the ball movement overall. The ball did not sit still. If a guy had a slightly contested shot, he was either looking for a screen to get himself more open, or he was looking to pass the ball immediately. It was the most beautiful play, I think, of the game, and my favorite moment. And a couple guys have posted it on Twitter. You can find it everywhere on there. And I just keep watching it back and back. Was that first play in the second half when Lamar Wilkinson had the ball in the right corner, and he drove to the basket, which caused everyone to collapse in. He kicks it out to Darren across the court on the other corner, who immediately passes it, swings it over to, I think it was Connor at that point, who didn't do anything with it other than pass it to Tayton. And by that point, Lamar had retreated back behind the three-point line. His player was still ball watching, because, I mean, I would be mesmerized too as to how quickly that ball was rotating around the top. And Lamar was back there before his player could ever get to him. He was wide open for a three-point shot. Now, he missed it, which was sad, but that was just gorgeous. That was just beautiful. Exactly what you hope to see from an IU team. And just such a beautiful play out of this team. And the unselfish play, just an example of that unselfish play. There could have been other times during that play where Tayton might have decided to try to drive to the basket and get a hoop for himself. But no, they all saw the play. They're all in sync. They all have veteran mentality, high basketball IQ, and know if they keep swinging this ball, that there's going to be open. Someone's going to be open. And that's going to be the beauty of this kind of offense, the kind of play, and the unselfishness is it plays fast, like Darren has said he wants to. It keeps the ball moving, and it gets the defenses out of balance. It causes defenses to be on their heels. You get them out of rotation and you get them scrambling, and then you just continue to pass it and you find the open man. It's beautiful ball. It's well-coached ball. And again, this is a team that has a lot of skills, that has a lot of good players, but there is a maybe hook that they may be up against more athletic teams or other teams like that, but their maturity, their experience, their IQ, and their high shooting is going to overcome that. It is going to be something that's going to allow them to excel there. Now, obviously, the flip side to that, the other side of the coin, the defensive end, and that's where this team's going to give up a little bit of trouble, just because of the size that this team is. What we're dealing with defensively is going to be a bit of a struggle for this team to figure out and find their footing as we go along in this season. And coming in hot, on brand, Martha the Mop Lady. Martha, brand new season. So much fun. I know you're enjoying it. I know you were ecstatic last night watching the game. I've talked a little bit breaking down the game and went into defense a little bit, but just give me your opening thoughts on this first game.
Yeah, and I was really, really excited because obviously new regime. It's kind of a new era of college basketball that we've experienced over the last few years. And the unique thing about this team is obviously the new staff, but also the entirely new roster. And I think there's so many people that haven't watched a minute of this roster play. You know, they went down to the Bahamas over the summer, had a few exhibition games that were on Big Ten Plus. So a lot of people in my network haven't even had a chance to watch this roster play. I mean, they've seen the results on paper and you know, they've heard DeVries talk. So there's been some excitement. They're like, man, he seems like one of us, kind of gets it. So there's just been this kind of, I take pause to use the word apathetic, right? It's just been, you know, I think there's been so many people that don't know what to think because of all the newness, right? They're like, man, I really want to get to know this team. I just haven't had the chance yet. And last night, I think, was the first opportunity, and it was exciting. You know, obviously it's Alabama A&M. You can talk about the opponent as much as you want, but Indiana has really struggled to separate themselves from teams like Alabama A&M in early season games in years past. So it's the result you want to see against an opponent like that. It's the balance you want to see against an opponent like that. It's the three-point shooting that we've wanted to see for a long, long time against an opponent like that. And it's shooting free throws against an opponent that we want to see like that. And I thought I was really impressed by the balance. I was really impressed by individual play. But yeah, it was an exciting start. I think you saw a lot of really, really good things that maybe that have been missing in years past. So I'm excited. It was a good start. It was good to finally get eyes for 40 minutes on this team for the first time. And I think people are slowly going to start. You're going to see some excitement start to build. And obviously, with the schedule coming up with some of the opponents, it's going to get real fast, but it's exciting.
Yeah, and that is an interesting point, that this team has something playing against them in that excitement and that newness and everything, and it's called Indiana football. And I never thought I'd say that. I mean, as we get into this season, it was interesting, and it was tougher to get excited for this team. I mean, not necessarily for me, but I think as a fan base overall, just because our eyes are still on football, which is such a strange place to be in. We felt that a little bit last year. And I think maybe that was exaggerated last year because of a lot of apathy within the fan base as to continuing to go with the old regime for one last year. So and the newness and excitement that football had kind of led to the trickle of the excitement. So now, like you said, it's going to be very interesting to see as eyes focus in on this sport, how the interest peaks. Because this was the right way to get their attention. I think there's still going to be a little bit of side eye to Indiana basketball right now, because everyone definitely has their main gaze continuing right now on football. But it's exciting to have these two programs firing like they are right now. At least the new car smell of a basketball squad and the success that we're getting from a football team like this. But yeah, I think it was the right and proper outing, and I think you said it in a good way there, where this was a game that was different, especially from last year. I think last year in some of those early season games against some sub 200 plus Ken Palm teams, we weren't able to put them away like we did last night. And there was always a little bit of tension in those games. And we didn't get to kind of try things or see who was going to be doing this or that. And that was something, as you came in, I was talking about defense, that you saw in this one, where after they were up by 30 plus points, the defense was able to start to try things in the second half. Because like I said in the opening, in the post, that's where this team's going to struggle defensively, is defending bigger, stronger, more physical bigs in the Big Ten. So they practiced a lot in the second half, doubling. And that handling of a game like they did allowed them to have some of that failing. It allowed them to fail in a game time situation and try that doubling. Now, that's not to say that the defense isn't completely broken on this team, because the on-ball defense is fantastic. The way the three guards, Tayton, Lamar, and Connor, were very disruptive on the point guards of Texas A&M. They combined for 6 steals together, and a lot of that was that ball pressure. And that's something that Darren has mentioned that he wants to have with his team, is to disrupt the ball handler on the other team. And you do that, and you get a team off balance offensively, and that's where you can kind of make up for some of that deficiency down below. What was your thoughts on IU's defense last night?
Yeah, I thought it was solid. I thought and I saw some statistics when I first got in on Alabama A&M's field goal shooting and their lack of ability to even get shots off. And I think a lot of that had to do with the pressure you just mentioned by Indiana's guards, and we rebounded well as well. So. And I heard DeVries talk about that a lot as well, just wanting his, we've got a quick set of guards out there, and even when Enright's on the court, Connor Enright's his stat line wasn't all that impressive, but defensively, if you watched him, I mean, he's one of the most active guys out there, and his ability to impact the game without impacting the stat line, I think, is pretty impressive. But our starting guards and their quickness and their ability to apply that pressure, I think, is going to be a real advantage, as it was last night, I think, moving forward as well.
Yeah, and I think Connor Enright, like you said, he's going to be that pestering type of player. And he's mentioned in interviews, those that haven't dove too deep into this team, he's mentioned in interviews that he loves being that player that that is just a gnat. That's kind of the Will Sheehey type of player that you hate to play against and everything. Opposing teams are going to hate him, and it's going to chirp up a little bit like that and just be that disruptive guy. And I agree, he's not going to be that player that's going to fill up the stat sheet for this team, but he's another one that comes with the extended knowledge and brings that knowledge of Darren DeVries' system and what he wants to run and what he wants to do for this team. So great to see what he can bring. I think as we start to rotate and talk about more of the players on this team, we'll continue with the guards. And I think Lamar is obviously going to be a star, and he's going to be that player for this IU team, or one of many, that just makes the roof come off of Assembly Hall many times. This year, he finished with 15 points in the first half on 5 of 9 for shooting and 4 for 8 from 3. That's just his first half stats. I really think that's where he kind of did a lot of his cooking and everything like that, and just fearless in those long shots that he takes. What's your thoughts on Lamar's first outing?
As advertised, right? I think he was kind of the premier get in the portal. And you know, you heard kind of budget numbers thrown around for him. So there's always that, like, in this era, it's like, man, a guy's making that much money. Is he going to come in and bust his butt and do all the things that, you know, we like to see Indiana players do? And he was all over the place, and, you know, both defensively, like we just talked about, but then offensively, I think by the under 12 media timeout, he already had 12 points and 3 3-pointers, 3 of 4 from the 3-point line. So his impact defensively, but to get Indiana off to that hot start offensively as well. I mean, you know, going on a streak like that to start the game is impressive, and he was just steady the entire game. So he's kind of that alpha that Indiana's going to need, and you know, hopefully it continues. Like I said, we're going to see that competition ramp up, and you want to see him shine then too. But it was a great first outing for Lamar.
Yeah, and I think with only 4 points in the second half, that kind of shows where the unselfishness. It's more of that, like he could have wanted to take more shots, pad his stat line and everything like that, but that's not where he is. That's not where his headspace is. So that was great to see overall. Again, the other kind of scoring leader we'll see throughout the year that I think just kind of took a relaxing game too was Tucker. I mean, obviously Tucker wasn't heralded as much going in as he came with his dad and everything. He wasn't really heralded as much as it should have been with his commitment to Indiana, but is going to be one of the contender for one of the top players in the Big Ten this year when it all comes to fruition at the end of the year. And he looks so relaxed out there. I think that's one of the main things I see with him. It's clear how well he sees the game, and just his basketball IQ is through the roof, and just his shot is just amazing. Such a great quick release. It even looks like he's holding back in these games. I almost will say he finished with 18 points, 7 for 13 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and led the team in rebounds, which surprised me a little bit with 11, but just kind of, I guess, shows that mentality of being where he needs to be. And obviously the big story, as they said, over 2,000 career points for him. Your thoughts on Tucker's game?
I think unselfish was the right word. You know, a guy that probably could have gotten, 20 shots off if he wanted to. But you look at the balance from his effort, again, we'll go back to defense. He was key there, but then just sharing the basketball, led the team in rebounds, second the team in assists with 4. So just the balance across the board, right? I think just a guy that's played a lot of basketball, a lot of successful basketball. You just mentioned scoring 2,000 points, but a guy that's probably going to see his role and impact increase from a point standpoint as the season and competition ramps up. But against an opponent like this, just his ability to impact the balance of the team, distribute the basketball, affect the defense, get rebounds. I mean, it's a stat line that you want to see a star player have against an opponent like this. So impressive. I watched him obviously a little bit with some of the games, but to watch him for a full 40 minutes, you can just see he's a coach's kid. He's a ball player, and he's going to have a huge impact for IU as we move forward.
Well, when I think about those two players, it runs another parallel to the football team, and we'll try not to. And I can't believe, again, this is crazy that I'm going to use a parallel of success from Indiana's football team. to talk about Indiana's basketball team. Pinch me. That's just such a weird thing I never thought would come out of my mouth. But you had Fernando Mendoza recently talk in his post-game show in the Maryland game, where he said, you take away our passing game and we'll run it through, we'll run it down your throat kind of thing. And that's kind of how I feel about these two guys. When you have these two guys on the court together, Lamar and Tucker, you've got two 3-point weapons, and you're going to see a lot of success from one or the other, because teams are going to have to game plan. Do we take away this guy? Well, then you do that. You double on him. You may leave an opening for the other guy to get going. So the way these two can have gravity and pull guys towards one another and make success for each other. And not only that, but then what that opens up with the rest of the team and how well they're able to pass. It's just amazing. It's going to be amazing to see how they are able to use that to succeed as we go along. I think a good transition, talking about Tucker's game, I think will be something else that I noticed in games we've seen so far. And we saw it a few times in this game. And this team does good two-man actions, great two-man game. And I think two guys that are really connected and have a great feel for each other is Tucker and Reed Bailey. When you see those moments out on the three-point line where you got those two guys with really good basketball IQ that are dealing with back screening for each other or handing the ball off, and they're playing a little bit of that two-man game, they're really good at finding the opening for either Tucker to step back when the player has gone under a screen that Reed Bailey has set for him and take the three, or when they're just kind of playing the little two-man game there, and then one of them will suddenly dive to the basket and find that open shot. I really like the game that they're able to play together, and I think Reed Bailey, while not filling up the stat sheet, I think is an interesting player IU brings as well. Obviously, Indiana's starting center, a little undersized on the defensive end, but I like his movement and what he can do, especially in that two-man game, that's going to cause trouble for some of those big men in the Big Ten. Your thought on Bailey?
He might have been my favorite player to watch last night. Just those, you mentioned the two-man actions, those little short rolls they were running. His ability, his when you look at going 7 for 9 from the field, 7 for 7 from the free throw line, if you get that out of Reed Bailey every night, that's exciting. I think he's kind of a player that maybe Indiana hasn't had in years past. He's a little bit undersized, but he's a wing that can get to the basket and score at the same time. So I think he might be a matchup problem as we move forward. And he brings a lot of solid experience as well. But I think one of the most exciting things is, players that have played his position in the past. I saw a graphic on X last night about Indiana's first half field goal shooting, and it was either from the 3-point line, at the free throw line, or at the rim. None of it was that mid-range, that we wanted to pull our hair out about in years past. And I think Reed Bailey.
You don't even have to say that for the half. That was all game.
All game. Okay. See, I did. Okay. And that's beautiful. Like those, how many times we find ourselves just, wanting to pound our fists in the years past about taking mid-range jumpers, and a guy like Reed Bailey, if, he was on, and I don't want to keep bashing last year's team or teams of years past, but, a player in his position in years past, we're taking those mid-range jumpers and missing a lot of them. And so for his ability to get to the rim and shoot from deep, I think is something that we haven't seen. So I think that's why I'm so excited about a player like Reed Bailey. So hopefully that continues, but he was really impressive last night.
Yeah, that 0 long twos was, wow. I did see that. I saw that same graphic that you saw at halftime, and then I was watching the second half and just going, please don't ruin this perfection of no long twos. I was really hoping to be able to come on here today, guys, and praise that no long twos were taken, and thank goodness I'm able to do that. But I think you mentioned that Reed Bailey was your biggest kind of surprise, or your favorite guy on that and everything. And I think my biggest surprise in this game was probably Sam Alexis. He finished with 17 points, 2 blocks, 3 assists. And very interesting to hear them talk in the telecast Robbie Hummel, obviously, they get to go to a practice and they talk with the team and the coaches and all that kind of stuff to kind of prepare for these. And he alluded to the fact that it seems like Sam Alexis is going to be one of the vocal kind of leaders of this team, and that was surprising to me, honestly. But I guess shouldn't be. He comes from a Florida team. He comes from a championship team. He didn't play a lot on that team because that team is really loaded. But he comes again, it's going to be broken record, but he comes as another player that has that experience and everything, and is our player to kind of be that big man down below. And he did have a fantastic block. He's going to have to be that rim protector for IU, but his activity and his impact on this game surprised me a little bit. What were your thoughts on Sam's game?
Well, when you look at Sam and Reed Bailey, a combined 13 of 16 from the field and 11 for 11 from the free throw line, and Tony made a good point in the comments about the type of action that Indiana's getting at the rim. It's not a lot of post-ups like we've seen in years past. It's getting downhill. It's those short rolls. It's that two-man action that's getting these wings, these big guys driving downhill and getting good shots at the rim, especially against an opponent like Alabama A&M. That's the type of field goal percentage you want to see against a team like that, especially from our bigs. So I thought both of those guys combined were really, really impressive. We knew a lot about the guards, at least, we knew what DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson came in with, all everything surrounding them, but I think there was still just some unfamiliarness with some of the bigs and just a lack of getting eyes on them. So to be able to see both Sam Alexis and Reed Bailey have the type of game they did last night was really, really encouraging.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time, or they spent a lot of time on the court together. And we've seen that in the past. I use two biggest players in the court together, and they're both standing there in the paint, clogging it up for each other and causing troubles. And again, that's what a great system that is there for this team. And it's just going to create dividends, not only for this team and their success and how guys can drive and everything, but finally there's the tape of look at this system for recruits and everything. Guys are just going to eat up being able to come and play in a system like that. So just was so exciting for me. I think final player maybe to kind of talk on, at least from a starter standpoint that we hadn't really talked about, was Tayton. I think Tayton had a pretty good game. He's a great leader for this team. Finished, bringing up the stat sheet here, he finished with 14 points, 6 for 7 from the field. That one missed shot was a 3, but perfect from the line as everyone else was. Obviously led on your assist. You want that from your lead point guard with 5, just 3 turnovers. Again, some of the turnovers, we'll talk about stats later. I'm going to forgive in this game because, again, early season, figuring everyone out, trying some things, especially second half, having a little more fun. But love his leadership out there. I think he's a great point guard, especially love his ball pressure. He finished with 2 steals on this game as well. He's going to create havoc for opponents' point guards and everything in this. There was a great moment that I do want to point out in the second half, as it was kind of dunk university in the second half for IU. He barely makes a dunk. And then in the next time out, when he's going to the basket, the cameras were perfectly on Coach DeVries. And as Tayton was coming towards him, you saw him Coach DeVries gave Tayton just kind of a little smirk or something, a little knowing glance of like, man, you almost missed that dunk, man. And that just kind of plays to the relationship and the playfulness and everything like that. I love those little glimpses you get in there. But what were your thoughts on Tayton's game?
I'm gonna go back to like talking about Bailey a little bit and just that 2-man game and Connerway's impact on that 2-man game. Obviously, he can score. I think he was the Sun Belt Player of the Year last year, and averaged close to 20 points a game in the Sun Belt. So he can impact the game offensively, but also there was a span in the second half that I thought he had a huge impact, and it was really Bailey had 2 dunks as a result, but Connerway found him on both, and one was off a steal from Alabama A&M, and Conaway threw the ball off the backboard to Bailey, and Bailey finished it with a dunk. But it's being able to impact the game in just different ways in scoring that you want to see a point guard be able to do defensively, get steals, find big men in transition. So I thought he had a really, really steady game. Great to see. And again, I'm excited to see him against a team like Marquette on Sunday, but I think it was a great start for him as well.
Yeah. And I think kind of the last thing to really talk about would be obviously this IU team, like we've said, it's going to look very different next year. A lot of these guys have 1 year left, and there's only a handful of players on this roster that have multiple years left to play. And two of them got in this game. That's Josiah Miles and Trent Sicily. I think Josiah Miles had a poster of a dunk, a heck of a moment for him, shows his athleticism and everything like that. Had 5 points on a perfect stat sheet of 2 for 2, one of those being the dunk and one of those being a 3. 1 assist to 1 turnover, so cancel those out. I think that's the rule of math or whatever like that. I loved his defense. And overall, just an older team. Good to see someone be able to come in that's going to at least be able to be with IU for 1 more year. I think he's a junior. I'm not exactly sure where his eligibility sits, though. But just a very good player off the bench, contributor and everything. And I think the same with Trent. At least we didn't see the same impact we've seen in some of these preseason games, these exhibition games that we've seen from Trent. He didn't have the stat sheet and everything, kind of struggled to stand out. But I think he had a game where he didn't stand out bad, but he didn't really stand out as that was an amazing play. Just kind of came in, did the things he needed to defensively, and continue to swing the ball and keep the offense going. Your thoughts on our quote unquote younger guys on this team?
Well, I'm not the guy to ask on who's allowed to come back next year. I mean, this new era of like bringing in a whole complete roster. I have no idea how much eligibility these guys have and how much they don't. It seems like it's always fluid. They may have another year, they may not. They may have another 3 years, they may not. So I'm very much like season to season, and so I'm not sure who can come back. But we do know who the young guys are, obviously, and they're freshmen. Trent Sicily's had some really good. I think he was strong against Baylor in some of the exhibition games, and obviously down in the Bahamas. But at the end of the day, they're still freshmen. They're still sophomores, and they're going to have those highs, those lows. The thing is, you don't want the lows to be noticeable lows like you mentioned. I don't think they were. I don't even know that I'd call it a low. It just wasn't the impact that we've seen in some of those early games. And when you've got a team with as much experience as Indiana does, it's kind of what you expect out of your youth. You want to put them in positions to get some experience, to get some. Obviously, I think Trent Sicily is a guy with his size and his ability is going to get some playing time as we move forward, but. I think there are going to be I don't think you can set the expectations too high for those guys, right? I think give them opportunities to impact the game, let them grow, let them develop. The Big Ten, we know what the Big Ten is. It's going to be a grind. It's and there may be those games where they don't stick out, but at least get some of that experience. And I think that's what matters. I'm sure you're going to see them with some of these opponents as we navigate through the early season schedule, where they make more of an impact than they do versus others. And that's just the life of youth in Division I basketball. So nothing to be alarmed about. I thought it was fine. And I think they'll probably continue to get opportunities here early in the year.
Yeah. And those that don't really know this roster very well, there's basically 2 other players I would say that we didn't see in this. Alexis Reschitz. I'm not going to be able to say that. Alexis didn't play out with an injury and everything. The other disappointment was we didn't see Nick Dorn in this game. I was a little disappointed there. We saw some warm-up videos of him out there kind of trying to get going. He is coming back from a fracture of some sort in his foot. So really kind of back to full contact and everything like that. He was kind of questionable going into this game. Like I said, saw some warm-ups, but didn't see him getting out there. Disappointed in that. I really hope to see him. He does need to kind of have some of a game like these early games to kind of get his footing and come back, because all reports are that he could be a player that might crack into the starting lineup of this team moving forward. So hopefully we get to see him soon out there playing, maybe not in this next game, the Marquette game, but the following game. I would expect to see some time from him. We'll move on to talking about some stats in this game. I think obviously this is, again, a caveat of the competition IU is playing against when you talk about stats like this, but you can kind of see some things that you like from this. One of the kind of glaring ones that you can kind of turn away, 11 turnovers. Obviously, you want to see in single digits, but I will say there were just 6 in the second half of this game, so 5 in the first half. I think that's more kind of what you'll see. You'll see about 4 or 5 on this team, especially early in the season when they're still figuring each other out. So while high, that's not a spot of concern. But the fantastic thing to see on this stat sheet is the percentages across the board. IU shooting 63% from the field in this game, 40% from 3. Wow, that's so fantastic to be able to see and say. And not only that, but 16 for 16 from the charity stripe on this. Be still my beating Hoosier heart on that one. What a great stat to see. And obviously from this and the past game, the Baylor game, they only have 1 free throw miss. I feel like I'm jinxing that, saying that I need to knock on some wood. What are some stats that you saw that you like in this game, Martha?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's 62% from the field, free throw line. You said it, be still my heart. 23 assists on 36 made field goals. And IU only allowed 0.73 points per possession. So again, the opponent is who they are. And we'll go back to just, at the end of the year, in the years past, we've always heard, well, IU didn't beat up on those early season opponents like they were supposed to. Well, IU did last night. And, it's what you want to see against an opponent like that. And so it was good. I'm laughing at Tony's comment. Again, it just kind of popped up as we were talking about free throws. And he said, in any other year to hit 16 free throws, we would have had to shoot 28 attempts. And
too soon, Tony. Too soon.
I do have to share my favorite Robbie. I really, even though he's a Purdue guy, I'm a really big Robbie Hummel fan. But my favorite moment from Robbie was him telling the story about talking to the kid from Alabama A&M at the team hotel, region kid from up in, Gary Valparaiso area. And, he's telling the story about how the region kids like to stick together. So he was going to go introduce himself and talk about, growing up in the region or where he played, blah, blah, blah. And the kid, the kid from Alabama A&M looked at Robbie Hummel and asked him if he was officiating the game tonight, not knowing who Robbie Hummel was. That made me laugh, but also reminds us that we're all, if Robbie Hummel's considered old, then, we're all getting up there, but that gave me a good laugh. Yeah, good night last night.
Yeah, big fan of Robbie. I really like when he's calling the games. There's no real fluff. There's no fill. He really seems to know the game and everything like that. I'll give him a little bit of grief, as he was giving Hoosier the Bison a little bit of grief when they showed him. He was talking, kind of giving us, he doesn't know the history of the Bison with IU and all of that, but I will put a mirror up to your alma mater there, Robbie. Purdue Pete's not the most interesting, good-looking, kind of nightmare-inducing mascot that he is. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, again, stats are stats in games like this. It just kind of is a thing where, and I think you tweeted out one thing that was great to bring up too, where you tweeted out where they had, I think, the starting lineup or a bunch of those guys, and just it mentioned balanced scoring. And that's really great to see too. Obviously, you have Reed Bailey leading it with 21 points, but then you have almost all your starters minus Connor Enright, which he's just kind of going to be that kind of glue guy or that kind of ball movement kind of player. But all your starters in double digits, and then Sam Alexis with 17 as well that comes in off the bench. Just a great balance you see there. Not one player taking over, and just shows that it's going to be possibility of different players each game that are going to be leading scorers for this team and different weapons. You can't just take away a Trace Jackson Davis and then dare the team to figure out where the point's going to come from. There's many different options that this IU team has to be able to be a threat for you in this, and great to see. And again, I think one final stat that I'll kind of bring up, obviously 13 for 13 on dunks, no dunks missed, and a great one to see as well. It's kind of been something I've lamented on in past seasons. IU was 11 for 18 on layups in this game. So making those bunnies, and again, no long twos in this game. Just fantastic to see, but a great game overall and everything. And I think we've reached that point in the game where it is early in this season and it is tough to get to some of those games and everything like that. And if you do find yourselves like Jennifer, a longtime listener and participant in the chat of this show, she could not go to the game. So Martha, tell us what she did with her tickets and what they can do with their tickets.
Jennifer, being the saint that she is, was kind enough to donate her tickets for last night. I want to say we had 30 to 35 people in attendance last night. We'll be tweeting out and posting some photos from the game last night as they were coming in hot and heavy late into the evening. We had a grandma and her grandson, a grandfather and his grandson, some local parents and their kids from big brothers, big sisters, all in attendance last night, and in the women's game the night before. So it's been a tremendous start to the season. And obviously, as you mentioned, these early non-conference games are games that sometimes season ticket holders with their busy schedules can't attend, whether they're out of state, etc. A lot of times those seats in years past had gone, unused. So a lot of empty seats on some of these games, but we become an outlet for a lot of these season ticket holders to donate their unused tickets. We're going to find deserving, qualified homes for them. And it's been a great start to the season. If you're interested, have tickets that you'd like to donate, you can visit our website, HoosierTicketProject.org. We'll walk you through how to donate those tickets, and we'll do our best to make sure each and every one of those tickets gets matched with a deserving home.
Yeah. Such a great thing to do. And yes, be like Saint Gritty. Give your tickets to Hoosier Ticket Project if you cannot go to those games. Saint Gritty, we're gonna have to call you that. That's kind of creepy. I don't know if we want to inflate her ego like that on this show. But again, a great outing and everything like that. Martha, give me your kind of closing thoughts on this game.
Yeah, you kind of want to stay level-headed about it, right? I think Indiana brought in a roster that's seasoned, that's experienced, that's had a lot of success at other locations. You always wonder how that's going to gel and work together. And I think it worked last night it was exactly what we wanted to see, right? You wanted to see Indiana come out and dominate. You wanted to see balanced scoring, balanced effort. I think there's some really, really good things when you start breaking down the stats that we haven't seen in years past that you can start to get a little bit excited about. I think there's a solid foundation. And I think even more importantly, I'm looking forward to, Indiana's going to test themselves early this season with a lot of non-conference games that are going to challenge them. Marquette, Louisville, Kentucky. So some great games coming up. We're going to see, there's going to be highs and lows as there always are with a brand new team. So I'd remind everybody to kind of ride that wave a little bit. But I think what you're going to see is a team that plays hard, plays the right way, and I think they're going to surprise us a little bit. So it was a really, really encouraging start to the season last night. Yeah,
I think that's a fantastic kind of point to leave on. This is a team that their effort and their skills are not going to be in question, and there are going to be games where they're just going to be outmatched in different ways, and they're going to lose. But I think we are a educated enough fan base that we're going to see that the effort was there in those losses and everything. And those that have listened to this show in the past know that I'm always that hopeful guy. And I've always talked about trying to have my hope meter filled. And that hope meter is overflowing right now. And it's onto the fun meter, because the fun meter is filling up with this team. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And there are going to be highs and lows. And we got to be patient with this team. And it's not going to be like football was. It's not going to be that instant success and everything. But I think the bar of this team is to make the tournament. I think this team can be a team that can make the tournament. How far they're going to go, who knows? Because the tournament is something that is very kind to those older teams, those more mature teams. So we get in there. Who knows where that could lead to? But there are going to be some highs and lows. This could very easily be a 10-10 Big Ten season team. So we need to kind of qualm our expectations as to win and losses on this season for this team. But that's not to say that it's not going to be fun along the way. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to where we are going to go from here on this team. But this was the perfect outing. This is where we needed to see this team and put them out on the floor and introduce a lot of people to the new players on this roster as we get to know them as we go along. We don't have to wait long, as I was going to turn around and play Marquette on Sunday at 1 o'clock. It's going to be quite the test and everything there. We'll be back again to talk about that show. May have to be a little bit delayed of a program after that, so make sure you're following on Twitter at General Chadwick, Martha as well at the Mop Lady for all information about the show, when we're going to go live, all of that. But until then, guys, I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that follow, leave a comment if you're listening to this delayed on another platform. We appreciate you being with us, guys. Go out there, have yourselves a wonderful day. And as always, let's go Hoosiers.